Welcome back, Odooers. Who doesn't like to earn money? I know I do. Today we're talking about overtime. When employees at Stealthy Wood work more than the required hours or work non-working days, we always offer overtime pay. We want to pay our workers for these extra hours at a higher rate. Our overtime rate for working more than 8 hours is time and a half, which is 150% of our employees' pay rate, while working non-work days like weekends or holidays, our rate is double time or 200%. So, follow me as I configure overtime in Odoo's Attendances app. All right, here I am on my main dashboard for the Attendances app where I can see all of my employees and all of my employees' attendances records. As you can see from these red blocks, all of my employees have worked more than their scheduled time for this week. So, how do I ensure they get paid for all this extra time? First, we're going to check into our configuration settings by clicking Configuration at the top, followed by Settings. And then we will scroll down to the very bottom in our extra hours section. I want to make sure that extra hours validation is set to approved by manager. This means that I will need to approve the overtime and it won't automatically be approved. This looks good, so next I'll create and modify the overtime rules. To do that, we'll click Configuration at the top, followed by Overtime Rule Set. Default rule set comes pre-configured by default. Let's check out these rules and see if we need to make any modifications. First, we're going to rename this to Overtime Rules. I'm going to leave this rate combination mode field set to maximum rate. Maximum rate applies to the highest rate of overtime, whereas the sum of all rates adds up the rates and combines them for a higher amount, which I don't want. Next, I want to add a description for extra hours and holidays. So I'll type in here in the description field, overtime rules for extra hours and holidays. Down in the overtime rules tab is where all the individual rules are set. First one I'm going to check is the employee schedule rule. The conditions section tells Odoo when overtime accrues, and the action section tells Odoo what to do with that extra time. This rule is based off of quantity, which means the rule is based on the total amount of time the employee works. This next line lets me specify the quantity. This states if the employee works different hours that are defined on their contract on any given day, then they earn overtime. Perfect. I could also update this to week. However, I like how this is set up, so we're going to leave it as is. Now, these tolerance fields down below let me set a buffer for when the company won't pay overtime and add another buffer for when employees are penalized for working less than their shift. And I'm going to enter 15 minutes for both. This means if an employee works 8 hours and 10 minutes, they don't get paid for those extra 10 minutes. And if they work just 7 hours and 55 minutes, they won't be penalized for missing those 5 minutes. Now, when we scroll down, the check mark next to pay extra hours tells me overtime is paid. The other option is to give time back as time off. The next field tells me what work entry is created for the overtime hours. I'm going to change this here to overtime hours paid at 150%. Notice how the above rate here changed to 150%. That's because the rate for this work entry is set to be paid out at 150%. I can't change this rate field. If I wanted to do that, I'd have to change the work type entry in the payroll app. All right, let's go ahead and save this. And now we're going to check out the non-working days rule. We can see that this tells Odoo overtime is being based off of timing, and that the worker earns overtime when they work on any non-working day. Perfect. Now, down below here, we have the between fields. These let me specify the specific time frame that counts towards overtime. But since we want to make sure that the whole day counts, I'm going to leave this at 0 and 24. But wait, I want to make sure they get double time. So in the work entry type, we're going to update this from overtime hours to double time hours. Perfect. This looks good now. So we see this is updated to 200%. So let's go ahead and click save. Now we can see all of our rules along with the salary rate here on the right. Now it's time to see these in action. And since I already have work entries I need to process according to these new rules, here at the top, I'm just going to click on regenerate overtimes. Now I'll click management at the top. And here I can see all of the overtime entries I need to approve, as I am the approver for the attendances app on the employee form, which is why I am seeing all of these entries. First, we'll click on Steve Thompson at the top, and automatically we can see the applied rule is employee schedule rule at the rate of 150%. So this looks good, so I'll click approve. And now I can see the extra 45 minutes that they have worked. Now we're going to head back by clicking the management breadcrumb. And now I want to check on Tracy Jones because I know she came in on a Sunday. And she should be earning double time for that. And I can see right here, we have the employee schedule rule as well as the non-working days rule applied. And look at that. We have the 200% overtime pay rate, which is correct. This is perfect. So now I'll click approve. And we can see the whole shift is classified as extra hours here at the top. Perfect. And that's it for this tutorial. Today we learned how to modify the default overtime rules and how to create new ones. We saw the workflow for reprocessing attendance records and approving overtime. See you in the next one, Odooers. Until then, don't forget to check in and out.